लाइव कर सकते हैं 7 बजे डॉट।
Program is live now.
Very good evening, my dear viewers from across India and those who are, logged in with us with this particular bandwagon of Education Pe Charcha. I greet all of you on this very, very auspicious occasion because today it happens to be one of the most prominent festivals of this particular nation, that is Bharat Barsha, that is Holi. And just see the pure coincidence today on this particular August occasion, we are conducting our 40th session of Education Pe Charcha. And as all my dear viewers, you all know that, basically, this is Vivekananda, an author, academician, and public intellectual. And we conduct this program under the auspices of Dr. Surendra Pathak, who is an adjunct professor of Vidyanath University of Gandhinagar. And of course, with the technical assistance rendered to us by Sabda Pathak and Chandan Orang. Now, coming to a very important part, my dear viewers, I would like to extend my greetings to all the fellow compatriots on this very, very special occasion, but with some sort of warning, because my statement should be taken as a caveat that this our beloved nation of Russia has been the first civilization on earth. So as we have been celebrating Holi, Diwali, and all these great festivals since time immemorial, with so long as the earth, so long as the sun shines on the horizon of earth, Holi, Diwali, and all these great festivals should be celebrated with the same amount of enthusiasm, gaiety. That is what exactly I wish and I pray to the Lord Almighty. My dear viewers, this being the 40th, session, and of course coinciding with such a great occasion of Holi, we have seen to it that how come we should invite some very, very special guests. And, befitting the occasion, we have had the privileged opportunity of inviting Shri Tantra Narayan Thakur Sahab, respected Shri Tantra Narayan Thakur Sahab, who had worn several hats, to his persona, because the man who had donned several hats, he was the Assistant Comptroller and Auditor General of India when Shri T.N. Chaturvedi ji was the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. He was the Accountant General of Jharkand and I think United Bihar. And then he was the, founder chairman cum managing director of that of Power Finance Corporation of India. And of course, one of the very, very important functionaries under the tenure or under the chief ministership of one of the most honest faces of the chief ministers ever in the state of Bihar, Shri Bhagvad Azad, under whom respected Sri T.N. Thakurji had served as his very, very distinguished advisor. So, here we are with such an august, guest today, Sri T.N. Thakurji. And my dear viewers, it becomes very, very, incumbent on the part to make a very important disclosure that, Sri T.N. Thakurji's son, we already have had the pleasure to host Sri Amitabh Thakurji in the past as one of our very distinguished guests. Sri Amitabh Thakurji is the youngest, police, you can say Inspector General of Odisha, who is, by the divine grace, we already extended him the best wishes from this august platform that he might very soon become the Director General of Police of Odisha and possibly by the divine grace, the youngest Director General of Police. So we have already had the pleasure of inviting him. And today his father, Sri T.N. Thakurji, whom I have already had the privilege of portraying him as one of the illustrious figures of that of Mithila in the Living Legends of Mithila, that is a pioneer book in the world on living legends, where we have already had the pleasure, I have already had the pleasure of portraying respected Sri T.N. Thakurji as one of the living legends of Mithila. And most importantly, before I switch over to question answer session, it becomes absolutely desirable for me to make another very, very important disclosure. Sri T.N. Thakurji has already been awarded as the Bisist Bihari Samman. Means he was already awarded with this particular prestigious award of being one of the most important Biharis by the incumbent Honorable Chief Minister of Bihar, Shri Nitish Kumar ji, along with that of other illustrious figures like Shri Prem Shankar Jha, one of the topmost journalists of this country, and of course Shri U.K. Sinha ji, the former chairman of SEBI. So Sri T.N. Thakur ji can well understand a man with a versatility, a man who served, as I already explained to you, and as I already explicated on all the different hats that he had worn throughout his very, very illustrious career. You can well understand, my dear viewers, how he befits through his persona, illustrious persona, this very 40th session of Education Pe Charcha. Now I welcome our very, very esteemed, respected guest today, Sri Tantra Narayan Thakurji, the acronym Sri T.N. Thakurji. Sir, we have an immense pleasure to welcome you as a very, very gentlemanly figure. Not only your illustrious achievements aside, you have been a gentleman par excellence, as I have known in my life. We are really proud to welcome you, sir, as one of our very, very distinguished guests to Grace and Bless Education Pe Charcha. Sir, as I have already given your introduction, though it is very vast, but nonetheless, I try to describe it in short. I am coming to the very first question, sir. You have been, of course, my dear viewers, sir has been an alumnus of BIT Sindri, and thereafter, as we'll come to know from all through him or from him all about his background. So my first question goes in this way: walking down the memory lane, could you dig out your past to enlighten our audience about certain incidents which shaped your future career as the Powerman of India? My dear viewers, I regret. I just know his most important description would be the Powerman of India, the man who revolutionized power across the length and breadth of India. That is, if I have to describe his persona in one line, then he is at par with such great person, like the man who is referred to as a milkman, Kurian Sahab. He also had ushered in the power revolution across India. How he did it, we'll come to know a while later. But now, sir, it is your time now. Please share some incidents about your sophomoric days and how it shaped your career, your future career. Sri T.N. Thakurji, our esteemed guest, sir, please.
Okay, namaskar to everybody, and also happy Holi, though it is one day belated. No, now Holi is being celebrated in Bihar today. So I am told in some parts of India it is being celebrated today. So happy Holi to all of you. As Vivekananda ji has said that how my memory lane. Now look, I am from a rural area in Bihar, North Bihar, the Darbhanga district, and I started my schooling there, and I did my matriculation from that village school. Though that village is now a town, but it used to be a very remote village in my days, in my childhood times. So from there I passed matriculation, I did well, and then I wanted to join St. Xavier's College, Ranchi, in the college, and my father agreed because I had done very well in my matriculation. So I went to Ranchi, and I did my pre-university science those days in Ranchi, and then I went to BIT Sindri, as Mr. Jha has said. Now, though you see, my whole aim in life was right from my childhood to become a civil servant. So I always wanted to write civil services exam, but my father somehow insisted that I should go to the engineering college. So I went, but my heart was never on anything else than civil services. So I joined as a lecturer for a while, and then I wrote civil services. Now, as luck would have it, I am very candid to say that my first preference was IAS, but I missed IAS by a few marks. And then my second preference was Indian Audit and Account Service, because I was advised by one and all that this service is equally good, if not better than IAS. This is what people used to tell me. So they said that you will never regret in your life by joining Indian Audit and Account Service. I don't know how it is rated today, but that is how I joined this service. Now, the moment I joined and during the training, I got a feeling that since I am now in finance services career, so I should, because many public sector undertakings are in bad shape today also, and they were in bad shape those days. So I just thought that whether I would get an opportunity to good do to some public sector company. But anyway, I was in my normal run. I went on. Then I remember I was director, deputy secretary, and then director in the ministry when Bhagavad Azad became the chief minister of Bihar. And the day he was going to take oath, he called me and said, "You come as secretary to CM." I was a little first because I told him, "Sir, why take me? Because I'm well established in Delhi now with my children studying and blah blah." But he said, "No, no, no, tum chalo mere saath." So and then I also told him that, "Look, I'm not from Bihar cadre of IAS. People will resent it. The officers will resent it." He said, "That's not your look, you to think about, but you have to come with me." So I went. He must have heard about me, and then I had interacted with him informally a few times. So when he was minister at the center, so I went along because I couldn't have said no to him. Though I was doing very well at the center at that time, and even Prime Minister personally knew me, Rajiv Gandhi, because of my job. But I said, okay, I'll go with him. And then he had to speak to Rajiv Gandhi to get me relieved. I was not being relieved by Mr. Chidambaram, who was then the Minister of State. Anyway, so I went to Bihar, and that was a very, very, I would say, very rewarding time because of two things. One was that it was a pleasure working with him, a very straightforward, no nonsense man, and he used to say, though I would not say, but in my personal conversation, we had one-to-one conversation. We had various things to discuss, but ostensibly outside, people used to think that I was doing everything. Okay, so that because I was his contact person, so everybody thought, the ministers, everybody thought that I was doing everything. That it never happens. You see, it is just an impression created. It was his government, it was his direction. But yes, whatever I thought he was giving direction he wanted to do, I used to actively interact with him one-on-one basis, and then finally we used to come, chalo aise karte hain. And that is what I used to implement. So that was one turning point in my memory line. Then after Bihar,
it's so nice of you, sir, to have given insight into your very sophomore days, because so many questions are there, and we'll come to know much the substantial part of your life as the question answer progresses. And my dear viewers,
Mr. Jha, just 1 second. So I would say that how did I go to power sector? Because that is what you have mentioned. So I have to say that
letter.
Okay.
This is sorry. So my dear viewers, actually, this is very, very important here, as our very distinguished guest was trying to explicate on the various aspects of his personality, how the personality, has blossomed into that of a power man. We'll come to it later on, because, a very wholesome question is based on that. But here it becomes very important to reveal that Shri Bhagavad Azad, under whom our distinguished guest had worked as his secretary, he was a very honest chief minister of Bihar, and his son Kirti Azad, Mr. Kirti Azad, who is a very renowned cricketer, also a member of parliament. He was the member of parliament. So he is the youngest son of Shri Bhagavad Azad, one of the most honest faces of chief ministership ever in the state of Bihar. Sir, thanks a lot. We are coming to very next question, sir. Sir, could you please enlighten our viewers about the role of an accountant general of the state of Bihar, United Bihar, because you are the accountant general of the entire state. Please, sir, your take on this.
First, let me correct you. I was not the accountant general, because that was the first posting in Ranchi as assistant accountant general. I was in the office of the accountant general. That was the first posting in Ranchi. I became accountant general later in Delhi. Right. So now, I'll tell you, there's the role of accountant general is, because the constitution only provides for the office of the Comptroller Auditor General of India. There are 4 articles of constitution which delineates the functions, duties, and whatever. And then it also says Act of Parliament will, by Act of Parliament, his duties, etc., will be defined. And the Act of Parliament was passed in 1971. Before that, it was being carried out as a matter of convention, and also part of constitution, because it is constitutional body. So all the accountants generals, wherever they are, They are the representative of the Comptroller Auditor General of India in the respective states. So they carry out the duties, powers, functions of the Comptroller Auditor General of India in the respective states. And that is why even the state's report is not known as the report of the Accountant General. It is known as the report of the Comptroller Auditor General of India. Audit report on Bihar, for example, is the Comptroller Auditor General's report on Bihar. It is not Accountant General's report on Bihar. Right. And the duties are that they will carry out the audit, basically audit of all the accounts, activities, and finances of the auditee organizations, which, for example, the Accountant General Bihar, under the government of Bihar, whether the local bodies like municipalities, etc., they are also being audited by AG's office, and all other functions of the government will be audited by, all officers will be audited by the AG's office. And under the Constitution and the Act, it is obligation on the part of the auditee, that is the government, whether it is union government or whether it is state government, not to say no to provide any information to Accountant General being asked by Accountant General. And I'll give you a specific instance. Although now it is long back, so it's not, I can say so. You see, when I was Accountant General for the scientific departments of Government of India in Delhi, I wanted to get some information for audit from the Department of Atomic Energy, which was under my audit jurisdiction. And the department was not giving, because what they did, they said this was classified as, it was a classified information under the Atomic Energy Act. So they said, we cannot share with you. So I made out a case, got the consent of the law secretary, and wrote through the chairman Atomic Energy Commission that when there is a conflict between the Atomic Energy Act and the CAG's Act, the CAG's Act will prevail, because CAG's Act flows from Constitution, and the Accountant General's Atomic Energy Act is an executive function act. And he agreed. And then I wrote to the Atomic Energy that you cannot withhold any information from CAG. And then he gave me that information. The only thing he told me that whatever you ask me, I'll give you. By only request, chairman himself told me, by only request is that you will keep in mind the sensitivity of the matter. I said, you don't have to worry about that at all. We are all responsible people, and you don't have to worry. We are as responsible as you are as far as the atomic energy is concerned. So what I'm saying, that government is under obligation to provide whatever information is being asked by accountants general at the union level or at the state level. And all revenues, all expenditure, everything can be audited by. Once there was a question, that was the policy can be audited. Government's policy can be audited by the CAG. Now, there was, for a long time, the policy was not being audited, because it was a general impression the policy is laid down by the executive in the interest of the people, and so why should audit be done of that? But later on, it came various countries. There was an international forum. I participated in those discussions along with Mr. Chaturvedi, and then now policy also comes under the jurisdiction of CAG, but CAG does exercise discretion, which policy to question, which policy not to question. So that discretion lies with the CAG. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a very important function, and some organizations of the government of India or the state government can be kept outside the audit jurisdiction, provided it is passed so by an act of parliament or the state legislature. For example, LIC is not audited by CAG, because under the LIC Act, CAG's audit has not been provided. It's a separate act. So Parliament is supreme. Parliament can do anything, So Parliament is supreme, but otherwise, this is a broad function of the AG.
Sir, one thing I would like to know, since you broached a very important topic, and you already, explained and rather explicated on the same. So a question just was, it was stepping in my mind that since as you broached, or rather you spoke about that policy auditing. So then, does it mean that CAG can assume some sort of, what you can say, assume the predominance even over the policymakers, in as much as they can question the policymakers about the various ins and outs of their policy making, the very template of policy making? Can they question that?
No, they cannot. They cannot. You see, so I would not say that they can question everything. But the only thing is that wherever they find that there is something prima facie wrong, then they can point out. You see, when the economic reforms in 91 was taking place, I was Accountant General for Scientific Departments, that as I told you. So, no, that office is known as Principal or Director of Audit Scientific Departments, but it is Accountant General. Basically, it is nomenclature is different, but same, right? It is Accountant General's office. Earlier, it used to be known Accountant General, now it is known as Principal Director of Audit. So, I asked the CAG one day, because see, God has been very kind, so my superiors always liked me somehow. So the CAG was at that time Mr. C.G. Somaya. So I asked Mr. Somaya that, sir, so many economic reforms are taking place, though it is in the realm of policy. But if somebody asks you that what is the view of the Comptroller Auditor General of India on these reforms, what would you say? Do you have anything to say, or you don't have anything to say? So he says, what do you say? He asked me, what do you say? I said, you should say something on this. The CAG in his official capacity should say, and that is why I'm saying that our people should try to study, and then if CAG has any suggestion to make, CAG should make that suggestion. And another incident I'll tell you, Mr. Jha, because this is an important thing. You see, nowadays, of course, CAG's reports are given due importance, but there was a time in till about mid-80s, or 80s, I would say, till 80s, where CAG reports were not being given so much importance. Actually, the whole people started to know about CAG publicly was only with the Beaufort's audit report. Before that, CAG, nobody bothered about it. No journalist, nobody bothered about CAG. Nobody asked, no TV, nothing of the kind. So I was in Australia undergoing a training, right? That was in February 84. So the Australian Auditor General had come to address, and in the tea with him, I asked him, how effective is your audit? We keep auditing the effectiveness of the government programs, but how effective is your audit? I asked Mr. Chaturvedi. At that time, the audit department's budget was around 250 crore. I'm talking of 84, 85. So I told him, sir, you are spending 240 crores of the public money every year. If somebody asks you, are you doing it effectively, what would you say? So he asked me, tum batao, tum log karte ho ki nahi? The point I'm making is that is the question I asked the Australian CAG, Australian Auditor General. There it is called Auditor General. So I asked him. So he says, okay, you are coming for dinner day after tomorrow to my home. I said, yes. Then he said, you asked me this question then. And that evening, when I asked him, that evening when I went to my room where I was staying, there was a whole big bag of papers from the Auditor General of Australia. I read, and what I found was there were all newspaper clippings. And what those clippings said, that Auditor General, when presented his report in the Parliament, it becomes public, he addressed the press. And the following day, the newspapers report, first one day the newspapers report said, this is what the Auditor General said. And next day the newspaper said, action taken by the government. This organization dissolved, that fellow sent out. This is the kind of effectiveness there. So during the dinner, he asked me, so do you have still that question to ask? I said, no, I've seen all those. I don't have to ask. And this is what I came back and told Mr. Chaturvedi. He said, आप भी press conference करो. But here Auditor General doesn't do the press conference. मैंने कहा क्यों नहीं करते हो आप? करो. तभी तो लोगों को पता चलेगा कि what is your view. Otherwise you leave it to the press as they interpret. So here Auditors General, my own feeling is that has been fighting side of going public. Even Vinod Rai personally told me, Vinod Rai is a good friend of mine. He told me, I never wanted to go to press. It was only when the
Sorry, sir. I never wanted to go. Please tell me again. Repeat it.
No. See, Vinod Rai, when Vinod Rai was CAG, there was some controversy about this telecom thing, right? So Vinod Rai was telling me that he never wanted to go to press. When the government ministers started talking about him in the press and his report, then he says when the press people came, he had to clarify. So he went for clarification. He didn't go by himself to the press, right? So that my point is that the auditors general or accountant general don't go to the press here. But anyway, now the reports are being taken seriously, so that's fine.
Thanks a lot, sir. My dear viewers, here as our distinguished guest, he was trying to make certain very important revelations. All of a sudden, it just struck my mind. We had hosted a couple of weeks ago, Shri Anil Swarupji, who retired as a secretary to the Government of India, Coal Secretary. And he had broached the topic of Shri Binod Raiji, the former CNAG, and he said while in course of our interaction, he emphasized on the fact that he countered CAG by writing his own book, that just a civil servant, something like he said, and he said that CAG had gone overboard in as much as it was not desirable on the part of CNAG to conduct any press conference. But our distinguished guest today, in the capacity of Assistant Comptroller and Auditor General, had given a very, very productive piece of advice to his then boss, Sri T.N. Chaturvedi ji, to conduct press conference, because that is the custom in Australia. So see the contradictory point of view, which I'm trying to highlight here. And I think I'm very much in agreement with our distinguished Assistant CNAG, respected Sri T.N. Thakur ji, when he says that being a public servant, a constitutional functionary, it becomes all the more important for CNAG to hold a press conference. And as he suggested, Sri T.N. Chaturvedi, the then Comptroller and Auditor General, had of course convened a press conference. My dear viewers, it is I take a special privilege to inform you that Sri T.N. Chaturvedi ji, a very, very illustrious CNAG, actually was the chief guest on account of recommendation from our distinguished guest today. He launched the book, The Living Legends of Mithila, in Delhi, in Gandhi Peace Foundation on 11th of November 2017. Thank you, sir. So nice of you to... Sir, it is very important for us because you shared with me how your first interaction took place with Sri and T.N. Chaturvedi ji. How was the question answer session? It is very interesting. If you could share with our...
Before that, before he became CAG, I was already at the CAG's office, and I was doing my approach in life has been to always do some innovative things. So one day I told my boss in CAG's office that there is no forum in the audit department for the people to express their free opinions, academic opinions, like what do I think how audit should be conducted. I'm only guided by the CAG's instructions. But I have no view. I have no place to express myself. I told him, and myself, slightly openly, I'm saying, not within the department we used to say, but on the files or on discussers. But I'm saying slightly openly. So he said, what do you mean? I said, there should be a journal from CAG's office. Which should say, their people can speak whatever they want, academically. Not the official things, but academically they can say, like for example, yes, CAG should attend press conference or not attend press conference. So people can express their views on that in the journal. So my boss said, who will do it? I said, you can ask anybody to do it, and that's it will be that sort of job and duty to do it. So you do it. So I started that journal. That's still going on. I started. and before it got registered with the registrar of newspapers and publications, I was sending it in-house to all people and as a newsletter, not as journal. So when Chaturvedi ji came, I sent a note to him saying that I would like to have a message from the new CAG for this newsletter. And he called me. I have seen your this past issues. you are doing such a commendable thing here. And then he asked me what other things you are doing, and I told him, I shared with him. It was a very long discussion with him. Then he says, I would like to interact with you more. And why don't you get this printed? I said, sir, I'll have to take a registration from the Registrar of Newspapers and Publications. I said, do it. So I got the registration, and then it began. So that is how it has started. And in my first meeting itself with him, he started liking me. And then he said, why can't you report directly to me? There is a system. I have 2 channels to report to before it goes to you. Because I was a deputy secretary level officer at that time. So I told him my file will go to joint secretary level officer in CAG's office. Then it will go to secretary level officer in CAG's office. Then it will come to CAG. So how can I report to directly? Next day, there was a notification from the secretary to CAG. For the following items, Shri T.N. Thakur will report directly to CAG. And everybody raised eyebrows. What is this? What is this? And people thought that perhaps I had worked earlier with him, but that was not so. I had never worked with him earlier. So what I'm saying that he is one person who I highly respected, and he was very nice to me always, even after retirement. Till about 15 days before death, I was in touch with him. So what I'm saying that he had an open mind, and I learned many things from. I'm telling you how to manage things. I learned from him. And only after that, I went to Patna as secretary. I went to ministry, then I went to Patna as secretary to CIM.
Thanks a lot, sir. Great information, great piece of information to our viewers. In fact, as our distinguished guest was saying, definitely I corroborate his observation. My dear viewers, it's very important for us to take a note of it, that before Sri T.N. Session became the Chief Election Commissioner, nobody took the cognizance of the Election Commission as a constitutional body. Only after Sri T.N. Session became assertive in the capacity of the Chief Election Commissioner, the nation began taking cognizance of the overall constitutional effectiveness of the body of Election Commission. Likewise, in some way or other, it was T.N. Chaturvedi ji, as our distinguished guest has said, once he became the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, people started taking the cognizance of overall gravity of the constitutional position of that of Comptroller and Auditor General. And my dear viewers, since he is no more, I pay my glowing tribute to Sri T.N. Chaturvedi ji, and I recall, in the course of book launch, I had in course of my address to that gathering, I had said this particular thing, that he is the man who had kick-started the process of exhibiting the actual role of C and AG in the polity. So as sir says, it just comes to me by way of a sheer reminiscence, sheer recollection of the fact of my speech, where I paid my glowing tribute to Sri T.N. Chaturvedi ji. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for dwelling at length on all these issues which lies in the subconscious mind of the nation. Thank you for bringing all that in the public domain once again. Sir, I'm coming to our next question, very, very important. Since you very candidly explained to us about C&AG role and about assistant CAG, because you yourself were one, so you yourself was one. I'm coming to the next question, sir. Though you just very candid, not very means in gist, or rather by way of reference, you already discussed about it, but we would like to know something more about it on this particular question. Sir, you also worked as the personal advisor of the former Chief Minister of Bihar, Shri Bhagavad Azad. Could you share some of your experience with Shri Bhagavad Azad, considered as a very honest and forthright Chief Minister of Bihar? Please, sir.
First, let me correct you. I was not his advisor. I was secretary to Chief Minister. Okay. So I was heading the CM Secretariat. So I was head of the CM Secretariat. And yes, it was more than an official relationship between the secretary to CM and CM, because I used to discuss things very candidly with him between him and me. And then he would say, we'll take decisions. But he was always very nice and very patient to me. But he really wanted, because when he was asked to go to Bihar, he was a central minister, and he was asked to go to Bihar. Rajiv Gandhi ji told him that Bihar mein bahut problem hai, Bihar theek nahi chal raha hai, so you go there and you set it right. because you are the person who could do it. So he started with that kind of gusto, and he was already a man of that type. And that is why Rajiv Gandhi ji asked him to go. But unfortunately, what happens is that if you want to do real substantive things in especially those days, now maybe it's a little different, there is a lot of resistance because people are used to certain ways of doing things in government, and so there are a lot of roadblocks, resistance from, and it so happened that his own party men were also resisting very vehemently, but he did not budge, and therefore a lot of things were done. Uh, some of those will be a little official, so I would not like to talk about them, but I can only say that.
Sir, please let the people know something about it, because so many
See,
years have passed.
see, wherever he found that there was a lot of corruption and a lot of inefficiency, he would directly intervene. He would directly intervene. And then he also wanted to develop things. And I remember that, you see, even industrialists used to started coming with his after his administration. 9 industrialists came and met him together once. Ever since you have come, we have now faith in Bihar, and therefore we want to set up industries. But his tenure was short-lived because of, again, as I said, opposition. And he was a no-nonsense man. So he said, and he resigned. Otherwise, that time I told him, why are you resigning? I told him that, you see, you were a member of parliament, you were a central minister. Were you able to do much for Bihar ever? Now you have got an opportunity. नहीं ये ब्लैकमेल करेंगे, मैं नहीं रहूंगा, ये लोग ब्लैकमेल करते. मैंने कहा कि सर आप, then I pointed out to a bottle of medicine on his table. I said, just look at it. It said poison. Why do you take this poison every day? Why are you taking this poison? Because you are taking this poison to correct a greater evil in your body. So sometimes you have to tolerate these things for the greater benefit that you will be giving to the people of Bihar. You have to tolerate this thing sometimes. But नहीं, मुझे कोई blackmail नहीं कर सकता. So anyway, the point I'm making is that he tried to do, and even now people remember. Nitish Kumar ji was telling me when he gave me that award of Vishisht Bihari. He had half an hour alone with him, and he was telling me कि आप लोगों के time का जो काम है वो अभी तक हम लोग याद रखते. And he, of course, he was paying some personal I would say tribute to me also, and he said कि आपने जो वहाँ किया CM सेक्रेटेरिएट में, उसको नीतीश कुमार जी मुझे बताएंगे, उसको हम लोग अपनी पार्टी मीटिंग में भी डिस्कस किए हैं ठाकुर साहब कि CM सेक्रेटेरिएट वैसा कभी चला नहीं. And I remember one journalist telling me that was not because of me, because I could not have done anything if he was not of that type. So all credit goes to him, not to me. I was only supporting him. So once a journalist told me that after Laluji became the chief minister of Bihar, and when I was there, Laluji was leader of opposition in Bihar assembly. So he almost every week he would interact with me. Thakur sahab ye karna hai, wo karna hai, that kind of it. So after I left, when he became chief minister, so some journalists complained to him about the CM secretariat function in a open conference. So he said, CM secretariat कब अच्छा था? हमेशा ऐसा ही चलता है. लालू ने जो honest है, लालू जी से कब अच्छा था? हमेशा ऐसे चलता है CM से. हाँ, एक बार अच्छा था भगवत आजाद के टाइम में, but that was because of T.N. Thakur. So that was because of T.N. Thakur. That journalist called me. I was in Delhi. अरे सर आज तो लालू जी आपकी तारीफ कर दी है. The point I'm making is कि ये सब हम लोग कर पाए because he was such a nice person and such a straightforward, and he wanted to do things, and I was only supporting him and doing things on his behalf. So anyway, so more than this, I will not be able to say about that tenure because there's many things happened, but it is better not to discuss.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, my dear viewers. And here it is a time definitely to certify, to corroborate what our august, esteemed guest has just now said. He is indeed a gentleman par excellence. I have had the privilege of visiting his residence in Delhi. I have seen that here is a man And I tell you, without any exaggeration, without any iota of exaggeration or myself even remotely appearing to be hyperbolic, Sri T.N. Thakurji I have seen is a very, very religious person and only believes in truth. Whatever he has done, he will tell you, not even an iota of exaggeration. Such a man of such greatness as he is, Bisest Bihari Saman obviously is not a matter of joke. Only 20 people from Bihar have been awarded with this Bisest Bihari Saman, and all such stalwarts like our, very, very distinguished guest, respected Thakur Sahab. Of course, Sri Prem Shankar Jha, one of India's topmost journalists of all time, and of course, Sri the UK Sinha Sahab, that is former chairman of SEBI, Security Exchange Board of India. So definitely, of course, it's so great. Sir, I am coming to a very, very important question. My dear viewers, it is very, very, I think it becomes important for me to make an announcement here because it is really pertinent to the very question which I'm going to put forth before our August guest. Once I had the privilege, of talking to our revered guest one-to-one for so many hours together, and when he narrated me all the experience which partially I could incorporate in the book, The Living Legends of Mithila, I think, I don't know about it, but I think I should have been the first few persons, even first person to have given the sobriquet upon our distinguished guest as the Power Man of India, the man who revolutionized the length and breadth of India, by ushering in the power revolution and by dispelling the power crisis that engulfed the country from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. So here is a man, the Power Man of India. How he could do it, I just had stopped, sir, if you can recall in the beginning of the program, because there is a full-fledged question on this Power Man, syndrome. The man who had ushered in the power revolution across India. Sir, the question comes now. You are considered as the Power Man of India. Could you please describe your role as the harbinger who revolutionized the face of Bharat Barsha in terms of ushering in power revolution? Because, sir, just 1 minute I would like to take. My dear viewers, in 1983, when in the World Cup was going on and India last game, semi-final, final, I was in Calcutta. I am born and brought up in Calcutta. Of course, tracing my ancestry from Mithila. So even during the World Cup match was on, current would go, just load shedding would be there, again it would be restored for so many minutes, again it would go. It was genuine problem confronting the republic, and here is a man who contributed, who is a harbinger for ushering in the revolution. Sir, how you could do it? Please, your turn.
I think I would say first that since Vivekananda Jhaji has said that I am a religious person, I would say that anything that you are able to do, you are not doing. It is the God's grace that makes you do that. Therefore, and everything in the life that happens is destined. So my going to Patna, for example, I never thought that I will go to Bihar as secretary to CM, being in the service in which I was. So that is all destiny, and destiny is guided by by God. And in whatever form one worships God. So what happened was that I was being posted as joint secretary in the Ministry of Power. My name went there for posting. Before that, I had never worked in power sector. Never. And I had known power sector only from outside. When I was secretary to CM, some BSCB things, Bihar Electricity Board things would come to CM. And otherwise, I had no idea about power sector. But Power Finance Corporation at that time was on the verge of closure. So because of whatever it had happened before that. So at that time, what happened, the biggest worry of the government of India was to revive Power Finance Corporation. So I was persuaded by the secretary to government of India and the Ministry of Power at that time that you go to PFC. I was not willing to go there, to be very frank. I said, sir, if you don't want me as joint secretary in your ministry, please release my name. I'll get picked up in some other ministry. Why are you pushing me out to a company? He said, far from it. We had a discussion at the PM's level, and we were about to close this company and merge that with REC, but we have not taken formal decision for that. So we, at the PM's level, in a discussion, we thought that after seeing your career, that let us try this man there for some time, whether he can revive. Otherwise, if he also fails, we'll close it. So you are my last hope. So I thought he was giving me pep talks. So I was still, but this, then you think about it, brother, as a joint secretary, you can join tomorrow, but think about it. So finally, I got persuaded. I went. And then I told him that you will allow me to run the company according to my own judgment and support me. He said, all done. So anyway, so he even took Prime Minister's orders that he will be given free hand to run the company. So what
Sir, describe that situation when you went to Atalji and when you had a personal interaction.
That was a little later. At that time, the PM was Narasimha Rao when I went to Power Finance Corporation. So see, what you are saying about Atalji is about the power market, because without power market, power sector could not have been revolutionized. So I went to Atalji to request him to allow power market to happen. Right. So because nobody believed that power can be sold in the market. I said, if you sell power in the market, you will see that power is made available to everybody. Otherwise, it will never happen. So anyway, so in PFC, within 1 year, mark this thing, because this is very important. When I went to PFC had 88% non-performing assets. Though on the books it was said 0, because it was all loans guaranteed by state government. But there were defaults to the extent that the NPA level was 88%, and World Bank and ADB, who had given money to PFC, were saying that unless these defaults are cleared, unless this 88% NPA is brought down, we'll call back our money. And that was the situation when I was sent. And within 1 year, with God's grace and with good luck, the 88% NPA became 0 in 1 year. And that actually catapulted PFC. Everybody was wondering, "Ye kya ho gaya? Why? Ye kya ho gaya? Ye kya ho gaya?" And that is how, so people started coming to me. How did you do it? Government people were asking me, how can you do it? How can you do it anyway? But there was no fudging of accounts. So I used to say everything. I said, let's see. There's nothing of no hanky. It's all real. That has become 0 NPA. And thereafter, as long as I was there, it was 0 NPA. Right. And then I also said that you have to develop power sector, private sector in power sector. The private sector had started coming with the reforms of 91, but nobody was setting up the power project because nobody was giving them loans. Power sector being what it was at that time, and power projects people did not believe. So I said, let PFC start give loans to the private power projects. So that also I introduced in PFC. And then what happened was that government announced 8 fast-track power projects with government guarantee by the state governments and counter guarantee by union government. And the projects were not getting delayed. And then there was more cry for more guarantee from government. So when I.K. Gujral was the Prime Minister, he had a meeting and he said, how can we go on giving guarantee for power projects? So there has to be a limit. So after that discussion, and I was always being consulted by government for these matters because I was from the government. So that is why from the service. So then Minister Y.K. Alag Professor Y.K. Alag was the minister, and there was secretary called E.S. Sharma. So they called me and said, Prime Minister is asking, batao kya karna hai? I said, power market. You have to have power market. So what do you mean by power market? I said, you start with power trading. Market में power को बिकने दीजिए freely, then people will buy, and then the private projects will take a call on the market and not on government guarantee, and let the electricity boards also buy from the market. So that they said, can it be possible? Anyway, after a long discussion, they said, you prepare a note. Then I prepared a note that how power trading should be introduced in this country. I was still in PFC. As it happens in government, note goes from one place to another. And then there are many bureaucrats of all levels who will pick holes. Bureaucrats, including I was also a bureaucrat. So many bureaucrats picking holes in those notes. So it went on. But when Kumar Mangalam became power minister, Vajpayee ji became prime minister, and Kumar Mangalam became power minister. Then at that time, some press fellow asked him that power training ki baat ho rahi thi, what happened to them? Kumar Mangalam did not have the clue because he was a new minister. So he came and asked the secretary that what is happening of what is this power trading? I was asked a question. So secretary told him, ministry secretary, he said nobody knows about it. You ask T.N. Thakur. So I was called by Kumar Mangalam. He said, the power trading, kya baat hai? What is happening? So I told him that this is how it should happen. And so he got interested. When I explained the whole concept to him, he became interested. He said, boss, do you think it can be done? He said, yes, sir, it can be done. Then I said, you go ahead with this. So that is how a cabinet note was prepared and it went to Prime Minister's office for Prime Minister's approval. When Bajpayee ji saw it, he said, ye kaise ho sakta hai? How can it happen? And that is why I got a very senior additional secretary level officer in Prime Minister's office at that time, was a good friend of mine, 2 years senior in service to me. He was a very close confidant of Bajpayee ji, as I was with Bhagvad Azad. So Bajpayee ji used to depend on him a lot. And he was a personal friend of mine also, and my next door neighbor. So we had good relations. And then he called the secretary that what is this proposal about power trading? PM is asking. The secretary said the same thing. Nobody knows, you asked T.N. Thakur. So then that he was a personal friend, he called me, and I tell you, I'm just using the words how it happens in the in government, the things get done on the basis of explaining properly and your trust. He called, and when he came, I came on the line. He said, "Tum pagal ho gaya ho kya?" This is the word he used.
Atalji said this.
No,
Atalji said,
that additional secretary in Prime Minister's office was close to Prime Minister. The moment I picked up, अरे TNT, तुम पागल हो गए हो क्या? हमने कहा क्या हो गया? बोलता है क्या proposal भेजते हो? Power trading कैसे हो सकता है? PM will never approve it. So I told him कि when you come back from office this evening, you give me a call. I'll come to your home because we're next door neighbors. I'll have tea with you and explain everything to you. अब phone पे बात नहीं करेंगे. And instead of going to his home, he came to my home in the evening. He came straight to my home from office. And then he tells my wife, Mrs. Thakur, चाय पिलाइए. And then ये पागल हो गया, इसको समझाना है कुछ. Very friendly. But after about half an hour, 45 minutes, when I explained to him everything, he got persuaded. Then he said कि तुमको Prime Minister से मिलना पड़ेगा. मैंने कहा मिला दो. Get me an appointment. So when I went to PM, the moment I entered his room, he says, आप ही हैं ठाकुर साहब. Because what happened was that he knew me by face. When I was Accountant General, I had made some presentations to him because he was PSC chairman, Public Accounts Committee chairman. I had made some presentations. And also, being poets, both Bhagavad Azad and Bajpayee ji, they had good relations. So I had seen him with Bhagavad Azad also, and he had seen me there. So he remembered me by face. The moment I entered, he looked at me. "Aap hi hain Thakur sahab?" He said, "Yes, sir." Then he said, "Ashok was mentioning about you." Ashok means that person, my friend, who was additional secretary. He was mentioning about you. तो आप तो बहुत सीनियर आदमी हैं, ये क्या छोटी-छोटी बात में उलझ जाते हैं? आपके लिए हमने बहुत अच्छा असाइनमेंट सोच रखा है, उसको करिए. हमने कहा कि नहीं सर, इसको करना ठीक रहेगा. It will be a great thing for the sector, power sector, and also for India. And what proposal has come to you has never been done anywhere in the world. It is very innovative, very unique thing that is coming. And it will be an experiment because nobody can say for sure that it will happen. So therefore, I also cannot tell you if it will happen for definite. Like I said, it's worth trying. And what have I asked in the cabinet? 6 crore रुपया तो मांगा है सब भारत सरकार से इस कंपनी को बनाने के लिए. 6 crore is not a sum for the government of India. Even if it doesn't happen, government of India will lose 6 crore of rupees. But we'll learn many things in that process of experimentation. So please allow it. So he just looked at me. "You करेंगे?" मैंने कहा सर. तो बोलते हैं कि ठीक है फिर करिए. Then I told him, sir, वो बिना आपके blessing और support का नहीं होगा. Richard रहेगा. That's such a fine man. Richard रहेगा. इतना ही बात हुई हमारी उनसे. Then the proposal was approved. Power Trading Corporation was set up. It was not taking off. Then one day Kumar Mangalam again called me and said कि boss आपके कहने से मैं कंपनी तो बना दिया, लेकिन कुछ तो हो ही नहीं रहा. तो अब आप जाइए वहाँ. You become the chairman. Again, when the file went to Prime Minister for my posting there, because I was senior civil servant, and by then I was becoming additional secretary level. Again, Bajpayee ji said, "आप additional secretary level के officer हो रहे हैं और आप इतनी छोटी 6 करोड़ की कंपनी में जाइएगा। तो आप हमने आपको कहा था अच्छा चीज सोचा है उसको करिए। मैंने कहा कि नहीं सर, मुझे ये ट्राई करने दीजिए, साल 2 साल ट्राई करने दीजिए, अगर नहीं हुआ तो नहीं हुआ, फिर आप प्राइम मिनिस्टर हैं, आपके आई एम एट योर डिस्पोजल, सही पोस्टिंग कर दीजिए। So that is how I was posted. But within 6 months of my joining, I started trading a power. And in the first year of balance sheet, a 6 crore company, sold power equivalent to 425 crores and earned a after profit tax of only 8 crore. जो हम margin ज़्यादा नहीं रखते थे because I wanted this thing to be popularized so that at state electricity boards buying market power through the power trading through my company, because I was a intermediary between the power producers and the state electricity boards at that time, because there were no private discoms at that. And when private distribution companies came, then of course it is being sold to private. And then after a couple of years, I got it. I publicly listed this company. Never to get further money from the government. I said, okay, let public give the money to it. So it was listed on the stock exchange. Lot of feelers to me coming from top people. This IPO will never succeed because it is only a 2-year-old company. It is trading is a very volatile concept, and power sector is bad. So how do you think that people will subscribe to your equity? But then I myself marketed the whole IPO. I went to every investor, every potential investor, and then also held road shows, press conference, and then it was announced, the IPO was announced. And the IPO, which was not being, it was being said by all, even my minister, my own minister, power minister told me, ठाकुर साहब अभी रुक जाओ, नहीं होगा, फेल कर जाएगा। हम बॉम्बे गए थे, लोग बोल रहे थे मुझे, मैंने कहा नहीं सर, करने दो मुझे। तो but again, with God's grace, people used to listen to me. मुझे अगर मैं कहता था मैं करूंगा, तो nobody would try to say कि don't do it. Finally, formally, nobody would do it. Nobody ever told me like that. So we did it, and then this IPO, even when the IPOs were not popular, I'm talking of 2004, was 42 times oversubscribed. 42 times oversubscribed. The IPO, which people said would never succeed, was 42 times oversubscribed. And my friends, I was additional secretary level, but the secretaries and others, my colleagues, friends in the government would ask me, कब रुकेगा? 8 times subscribe, 20 times subscribe, अब 40 times, अरे कब रोकोगे इसको? मैंने कहा चल दे दो, let it go on. And then finally it was 42 times oversubscribed, and then we got it. The point I'm making is that, you see, when one can foresee, best, you see, always in life, and that has been my approach, that whenever I was faced with any problem, either in personal life or in official life, I would try to find a solution to the problem. I will not evade the problem. I will not keep it under carpet. When I was asked, without government guarantee, how can you get power projects, private power projects? I said, power trading. कैसे होगा? Let us try. Try to करना होगा ना. Then only we can say. So होगा नहीं होगा, nobody knows. But let us try at least. That is what I told even the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister like Mr. Bajpayee.
Great, great.
For whom I have highest regard. And after that, you saw how much investments came into the sector. And that was, I was told by many people, Mr. K.V. Kamat told me one day, he was ICICI chairman. He said, I have told my people that wherever Mr. Thakur signs a power purchase agreement, that Mr. Thakur's PTC signs a power, he should say Mr. Thakur signs, but it is PTC, signs a power purchase agreement, please finance it without looking at anything else. So that was the kind of trust people placed. And then after some time, then, you know, for any market, the next destination is electronic platform. So the power exchange was set up. And then PTC was, during my time, PTC was the co-promoter of that power exchange. platform was provided by MCX, and all domain knowledge was provided by us. So many people would say, you are setting up a competitor for you, because they will take some trading volumes. So your volume, I said, no, the pie will increase manifold. So my volume will also increase. Percentage share will come down. But let it go, let the sector grow. So now there are 2 exchanges functioning in the market. And third is also being set up. And there are many trading companies. People who oppose trading companies, power trading companies, themselves set up power trading companies after the success. So what I'm trying to say is that for even anybody who's youngster today, who is aspiring to join the service or wherever, I'm not saying only civil service, wherever, doing anything or wherever anybody is there. When the problem comes before you, don't keep it aside.
Thanks a lot, sir. Indeed,
And
great to hear all that. So much, such a, means you have enriched all prospective, IS officers, would be all the students, aspirants, IS aspirants, and whoever in whatsoever field, that never give up, never say die approach, that indeed heralded the revolution in power sector. Sir, it has become very important now. My dear viewers, it is time to disclose something upon which sir will explicate. He would try to illustrate on that. He was the man who, seeing such a exponential rise in power sector, Shri Dhirubhai Ambani ji, the then India's topmost corporate leader, he had, persuaded and repeatedly he had asked his son, assigned his younger son, Sri Anil Ambani ji, the responsibility of taking him for a meeting with him. So I know one more incident when he went along with the Honorable Pradha, then statesman Prime Minister of India, about whom he was talking now, Sri Vajpayee, to America. He had signed, projects worth $6 billion American dollar, or whatever he would rectify or clarify on it. And later, when Sri Vajpayee asked him that itna bada project ko sign karte hue aapko dar nahi laga, he sir said, our distinguished guest said, that jab Pradhan Mantri ji mere bagal mein ho, finance minister bagal mein ho, finance secretary khare ho, to phir kaisa dar? Sir, I would like you to explain both these incidents to our viewers. Please, sir.
Actually, I would say that you are too good a person. So you are so you are putting it in a way which is very attractive. But let me tell you, it was all fact of the matter. You see, when PFC turned around and 88% NPA became zero, so there was a report from a leading consultants of the world where it said that the international investors have unlimited appetite for investment only into 2 Indian companies, Reliance Industries and Power Finance Corporation. So Anil Ambani told me that he got very surprised. PFC to band hone wala tha. Now it is in competition with RIL for investment. So he said, then he inquired. Then people told him about me. He has done it. So he wanted to meet. And that is how he met me. He came to my office, Anil Ambani, and met. And then after that meeting, he told me, would you like to see my father? He asked me, would you like to see my father? He will be very glad to meet you. He likes persons like you. So I told him, yes, I would like to see him. Because can one imagine what Dhirubhai Ambani did in his lifetime? From a person distributing petrol at a petrol pump, and then what he became. So I said, yes, I would like to meet him. And I went, Anil Ambani set up the time, and with Anilji took me to Dhirubhai. And I told Dhirubhai, I have come here with a personal interest. So Dhirubhai said, boliye Thakur. I said, I have heard many things about Reliance from many people and read about Reliance. I have heard many things about you from many people and have read about you in many places. I want to hear your story from your mouth. That is my personal interest. And then he started telling me. I got a lot of lessons from him. And life mein se karna chahiye, and he was so nice. Almost about 2 hours. I was asking him questions and he was saying things to me. And then Anil Ambani ji was sitting quietly. Only 3 of us there. And then when I took his leave, he was already paralyzed by then. He was finding it difficult to get up, but he was very nice. He got up on his own. I mean, nobody assisted him to get up from his chair. So I was happy to see that he was not in that bad health which I had imagined. And then we took leave. So, so what happens was that after PFC's this thing, PTC was being set up, and the word spread in the market over everywhere in the world that now India will have power trading and power market. So there's a lot of interest in investing in India if PTC signs a power trading power purchase agreement. That means if PTC buys the power from these power projects and then sells to the state agency boards, then what would happen, or any other distribution company, then what would happen is that their market risk is taken by PTC because all their produce will be sold in the market. And their revenue collection risk is also taken care of by PTC. So they will not have to worry about getting money from the buyers of power. The PTC will collect and give to them because PTC is responsible for making payment to them and PTC is responsible for buying power from them. A lot of people got interested, and that is why 6 billion worth of investment projects had signed MOU in USA when Mr. Vajpayee went to Washington at the invitation of Bill Clinton, the then president of USA. So their total MOUs for total investment of 7.2 billion were signed. Out of which 6 billion investments was signed by me. So that is why people say out of 7.2 billion, 6 billion was signed by me. So that is why people raise this. So after that signing, वाजपेयी जी सेठ का आपको डर नहीं लगा इतना बड़ा साइन करने में? मैंने कहा सर आप यहाँ सामने में है, फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर पीछे खड़े हैं साइनिंग के समय में, तो मुझे डर किस बात का?
Sir, who was the minister then? Who was finance minister? Jaswant Sinha ji.
Jaswant Sinha ji was the finance.
Okay.
So he was just standing behind me, and behind the US company's chairman, the secretary energy of USA was just standing, along with Jaswant Sinha ji. तो ऐसे सर सामने आप है, पीछे फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर है, तो मुझे किस बात का डर है? So that was in that context it was said.
Great, sir. My dear viewers, we have seen the man with a man with such a high degree of modesty. He never considers himself to be at all having done anything, because he, like Swami Vivekananda, if we can recall, Swami Vivekananda had very famously said that whatever good he did in his life, all due to his Guru Ramakrishna Paramahansa. Likewise, our distinguished guest had shown me, he keeps mother's photograph, and for every work he bows before mother, and whatever good he claims to have done, he gives entire absolute credit to Mother Divine. That has been the religiosity, the religious nature of our distinguished guest, Shri T.N. Thakur, sir. Sir, I'm coming to...
Just a minute. I would say that it is not that I give Mother the credit. She only does it.
Okay.
She only does it. I am only an instrument. And she has the remote control. She has the remote control. I am only an instrument.
Right.
So I don't have to give credit to her. She does it. She is doing everything.
Great, sir. Since we are coming to the end of the program, because of course, the conversation has been so much, it has been so much intoxicating that we want the program to continue forever, but time is a limiting factor, a limiting constant. Sir, I'm coming to a very important question now, because when you worked in the capacity of CMD of Power Finance Corporation or Power Trading Corporation, as you mentioned in detail, you had to confront with a lot of bottlenecks, severe challenges from state government. If you recall, you just already confided in me about some problems in West Bengal with Jyoti Basu, the then chief minister, and how they also started trusting you like anything. So if you could just tell us about one or two incidents pertaining to the confrontation that you faced or experienced in dealing with power, please, sir.
No, it was. I would not call that confrontation, because people had this kind of doubts in their minds that whether this will happen or not happen. So I went there, and what happened was that once this our first consignment of power came from West Bengal Power Development Corporation. They had surplus power and they were not able to generate. surplus capacity, not able to generate. So we bought that power from them and supplied to Haryana and Delhi. So some people raised the question in the assembly there that at the depriving the consumers of West Bengal, power is being sold to Haryana and Delhi. And on that day, incidentally, I was in West Bengal. So I had gone there in some other connection, and I had a press conference. In that press conference, people asked that you are deprived. Here, people are not here in West Bengal. The load shedding, people are not getting power, and you are selling West Bengal's power to Haryana and Delhi. So it is not depriving. I said no. See what by selling this capacity was idle. They were not generating the power because they were not getting revenue, so they could not generate the power. Now because of us, the power generation has gone up by 9%. Because of single purchase of power, the power generation went up by 9%. So 9% power is being generated and sold, and so much of money West Bengal is getting. Now this money is going to reduce the power cost, overall power cost in West Bengal. So the consumers of West Bengal will benefit. And that it is for the benefit of consumers of West Bengal, not for the benefit of only Haryana and Delhi. And Haryana and Delhi, who were facing shortage, will get this power. So I got a call from the chairman and C board and also from the power secretary, because they saw in the newspapers. They called me, "Aapne to hamara kaam kar diya." We were facing this question in the assembly. Nobody asking question in the assembly now. So CM is very happy. He has explained everything in his address. So, because I was not aware that he was being asked questions. Same thing happened in Himachal. I bought some power from Himachal, and the chief minister was Shri Singh ji. And then there was assembly question being asked by Mr. Dhumal, who was the leader of opposition. So the chief secretary called me and said, "Aapke power lene se this is what is happening." So I said, CM is very worried. So I said, I would like to meet the CM. So CM was incidentally in Delhi, we met, and chief secretary was also called. Then I told the CM, sir, let me explain that how Himachal has benefited. He said, Thakur sahab, you don't have to tell me that. So I realize how much of benefit you have given to Himachal. Similarly, Mr. Late Parikar told me, Goa Chief Minister, how much of benefit you have given to Goa. Naveen Patnaik told me that you are a great friend of Odisha. My son had not gone there at that time. That you are a great friend of Odisha. You have done so much for us and giving us so much of money. I was not giving them money. They were their money. I was only selling their idle capacity by asking them to generate more and give to me and supply to other states. So what I'm saying that initially people were very resistant because they did not realize firstly that this will happen. Secondly, they did not think that it will benefit their estates. When they saw that it was both happening, then they became very happy and then they were very good to me. Mr. Parikar told me that I can never forget in your life. I can never forget you in my life. You have done so much for my estate. Naveen Patnaik told me the same thing. So what I'm trying to say is that when they realize the benefit, that is how, and then that is how projects have started coming, that the investments have started coming. Now you are seeing that power sector. So I'm not saying that it was a trigger point. It was a catalyst. I'm not saying that everything is what was being done by PTC. Everybody else also done. It was a trigger. For anything good to happen, there has to be trigger. There has to be a catalyst. And that is what we did.
Thanks a lot, sir. Great. My dear viewers, you just heard our sir articulating on the various aspects and dimensions. Most importantly, as you know, as he was a trigger, as he what exactly he articulated. But we have to agree that because of his modesty, at least somebody has to be the pioneer. Somebody has to don the role of a pioneer. If something has to materialize, something has to crystallize. And he indeed had donned the role of that of being a pioneer, a harbinger for ushering in a revolution in power sector. That is why the very apt description that I have given, that is he, the power man of India. And by the grace of divine, I make this announcement. By the grace of divine, if at all it happens, I would love to write the book. My offer to sir still exists. The Power Man of India. This is the book I am contemplating. I have contemplated, still contemplating to write, to pay a glowing showing tribute to the man who ushered in the power revolution in India, much like Sri Kurian, who had ushered in the milk revolution across India. Sir, since the time is the limit, last question I'm asking you that, sir, what is your opinion about the contemporary power scenario, keeping in view the non-renewable energy like solar energy, the revolution on the front of solar energy? How do you think will be the future power scenario in the country? Your quick take on this, sir.
You see, I have expressed that opinion in the power within the power sector. That is, it's a good step that for the environment, for the sake of environment, that less of fossil fuel power and more of this renewable energy power. But at the same time, for the need, India's need, you see, today our industries are going to grow, have to grow, because a lot of industries are being set up in India. Prime Minister Modi is saying that there should be Make in India effort. So when those demands come, then solar power alone cannot meet the demand. The base load can be supplied by the more reliable power. Solar power depends on the weather and also is not available during night. So you need storage. A lot of work is being done on storage, and therefore things are happening in the positive direction. And now people are talking about the hydrogen-based energy generation, also power, also. So all those things are going to happen. But as of today, I am saying that we need some base load, and therefore we cannot get rid of this fossil fuel-based power, like thermal power, steam power, and nuclear power is not a polluting power, but nuclear power is a stable power. So we have to depend on this nuclear power and on thermal power and hydropower for quite some time. Hydro is renewable for quite some time. So what I am saying that these power projects can also be made less polluting or no polluting by adding on some cost to it, like arresting the polluting things, that sulfur and other things that go to the environment, by arresting them, and there are methods to do that. So you have to simultaneously take care of those projects also. If you don't take care of those projects, then so much of investments have taken place in those projects. All those projects will go waste. And at the same time, your sector will also suffer, because you will not be able to get the base load power to the extent that will be required if India has to grow. And this is a question that I asked to an UN expert who was in Delhi, and he is the expert on environment, and he was pleading for more renewable power, like solar and wind power and things like that. So I asked them this question, that for a country like India, do you think that we can get rid of dependence on thermal projects? He said, let me be candid, Mr. Thakur, no. You will have to depend on thermal power for quite some time. So what point I am making is, but thermal power can also be made less environment polluting. And there are methods to do that. So apply those methods, raise some cost. Another thing is that people have to pay for the cost of power. I don't like this idea of free power. This is the distribution companies owe more than 1 lakh crore to the power generating companies. How will this continue? Whether renewable, whether wind power, solar power, thermal power, distribution companies are delaying payments. More than 1 lakh crore, I am telling you, are the overdues from distribution companies for the power generators. So that business has to stop. People have
one question comes readily to my mind, because coal is going to be obsolete, because government of India has already signed an agreement. So
yes,
slowly, gradually, it will freeze out. So what is the substitute then? Because you say, and I'm absolutely endorsing your standpoint, that we cannot overwhelmingly or absolutely rely on solar power. We have to have some alternative source of power also, which might be renewable one. But then coal, we have to freeze out, because we have already entered into the agreement. What is the solution then?
I'm not for adding more thermal capacity. I was only saying that the capacity which has already been added should be utilized properly, because those are investments and those are necessary for the sector. Right. So that is what I'm not saying add more capacity.
Okay.
because
Thanks a
because
lot.
because I know that the renewable power like solar power or other power and some now experiments are also being made. All those will ultimately cater to the needs, all the needs. But I'm saying as of today, you need that power also. Therefore, don't let that asset go waste.
Okay. Okay, thanks a lot, sir. My dear viewers, you watched today a very, very wonderful exposition, articulation of so many important aspects and dimensions of, so many multiple role that our august guest has played, and he has enlightened us on all those very crucial and delicate issues about which we were absolutely ignorant. Power Finance Corporation, Power Trading Corporation, the pivotal role those organizations played, and which was steered, or which was spearheaded by none other than our distinguished guest, respected Sri T.N. Thakurji. We all have understood, we all have listened with some sort of awe that how this man alone has inspired the entire nation towards its own journey towards a resplendent path that ensured that witnessed a power revolution across the length and breadth of India. My dear viewers, it has been a wonderful interaction with our august guest. And before I invite Dr. Sri Surendra Pathakji for just summing up in just our conversation today, I would like to make an announcement. Next Saturday, our guest is a very young professional, Sri Deepak Parbatiyar, who has been who played a very, you can say, pioneering role in terms of promoting a particular blog across the world. That is Global Bihari. globalbihari.com, Global Bihari news portal. Sri Deepak Parbatiyar has promoted, and here within a couple of years, even I think a year has gone by, he has won accolades from different quarters globally for having launched such a great platform. He is going to be our distinguished guest on next Saturday. Sir, Dr. It's your turn, please, sir. Dr. Surendra Pathak ji.
जी नमस्कार। श्री टी.एन. ठाकुर साहब के व्यक्तित्व और उनके विचार और उनके योगदान के बारे में हम लोग विवेकानंद जी और ठाकुर साहब के बीच में बातचीत को सुन रहे थे, और उनकी जो उपलब्धियां हैं वो अप्रतिम हैं। अप्रतिम इस अर्थ में है कि कैग में रहते हुए भी उन्होंने कुछ पैरामीटर सेट किए, टी.एन. चतुर्वेदी जैसे व्यक्ति को प्रभावित किया और कैग को मीडिया के बीच में लेके आए, ताकि कैग के बारे में कोई रहस्य बना ना रहे, क्योंकि रहस्य कई बार बहुत सारे र्यूमर को जन्म देता है। तो ये एक बड़ी उपलब्धि थी। और दूसरी जो बड़ी उपलब्धि पावर सेक्टर के बारे में थी। और जब कोई व्यक्ति स्पिरिचुअल होता है और ये मान के चलता है कि वो तो एक माध्यम है, माँ ही उसके माध्यम से करा रही है, जब इस दृष्टिकोण से कोई व्यक्ति काम करता है तो सच में वो राष्ट्र के लिए, मानवता के लिए और समाज के लिए कुछ बड़ा कर जाता है। जैसा कि ठाकुर साहब के जीवन में देखने को मिला, वो जहां भी रहे उन्होंने कुछ ऐसे मिसाल कायम की जिससे बहुत सारा सिनेरियो जो है वो देश का और उस सेक्टर का चेंज हो गया। जैसा कि आप खुद भी बोल रहे थे कि पावर सेक्टर में जो सुझाव आपने प्रधानमंत्री और उस समय के तत्कालीन ऊर्जा मंत्री को दिए, और साथ साथ जो इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट के रूप में धीरू भाई अंबानी को भी आपने दिए, उसके कारण से पूरा पावर सेक्टर का सिनेरियो चेंज हो गया और उससे भारत में जो पावर की कमी थी वो पूरी हो पाई और रेवेन्यू भी जनरेट हुआ। तो ये एक अप्रतिम उपलब्धि है और इसके कारण से बहुत करोड़ों लोगों को इसका फायदा मिला होगा, ऐसा हम विश्वास कर सकते हैं। और इसके बाद आपकी जो सरलता है, कृतज्ञ, और जो आपके अंदर एक प्रकार का ग्रेटिट्यूड है कि माँ ही जो है ऐसा काम कर रही है, जो बहुत ही प्रेरक है, प्रभावित करने वाला है। मैं आपके योगदान को और आपके व्यक्तित्व को प्रणाम करता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thanks a lot, sir. You heard Dr. Shri Surendra Pathak ji, Professor Shri Surendra Pathak ji. He had summed up the detailed discussion in a very, very meticulous way. And of course, in a very, very, what I would say, the very, very, the brilliant way he had summed up the discussion between me and our august guest, respected Sri C.M. Thakur ji. My dear viewers, as you heard this very interesting and very, what I would say, engrossing conversation, it would be no exaggeration to say that today, if we have, in our midst, we have the august, the gracious, and the conspicuous presence of the Powerman of India. We have lost the man who revolutionized the milk sector, Sri Kurian Sahab, but we are the entire, I would say the generations would be so very happy and delighted at the prospect of having such a great pioneer, Sri C.M. Thakur ji in our midst. And again, I would like to reiterate my own intention, my noble intention to dedicate the book, The Powerman of India, to the entire 1.30 billion people, based on a very, very illustrious life of Sri C.M. Thakur ji. And I also think that I deserve to write this book because I was, by the grace of divine, the first man to have given this particular sobriquet, to confer this particular sobriquet upon such a distinguished man, Sri C.M. Thakur ji, as the Powerman of India. So we can well understand it was an electrifying discussion wherein the great pioneer, great visionary had thrown adequate light on multiple dimensions, passing through his life, the trajectory of his life, that itself was so very illustrious. It was already a very illuminating journey that he had traversed, he had hitherto traversed. That itself is a saga of inspiration for billions of people, not only within the country, but from across the world. With these words, I thank all of you for being a part of this wonderful bandwagon of Education Pe Charcha, because Education Pe Charcha is akin to educating the nation. So this was a very, very successful program today. I thank I salute Dr. Respected Sri C.M. Thakur ji for blessing our Education Pe Charcha. And of course, we'll meet you again on next Saturday, of course, with another guest, a younger one, Sri Deepak Parvatiyarji, for his own unique work that he has been doing. I thank Dr. Sri Surendra Pathak ji for illuminating this program, being a partner in the process of educating the nation. And of course, Sabya Pathak ji, Chandan Oraon for making posters, Sabya ji for all technical assistance. And of course, my dear viewers, for your for your staunch support, extension of your staunch support, for otherwise we would not have been successful in terms of conducting this program unless we could have had your very, very valued patronage, to shower upon us. With these words, I return you again with a very, very tremendous sense of gratitude and my salutation to respected Thakur sir. I return you all back with a commitment to return at 7 p.m. on next Saturday. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, Vivekananda ji and Surendra Pathak ji. And Surendra Pathak ji, we have not met, but Vivekananda ji was mentioning about you. Thank you very much. And maybe, inshallah, we'll meet sometime.
Great, sir. Thank you. Thanks, sir. Great. Pranam. Pranam to our respected sir, Sri Pathak ji, everyone. All my distinguished viewers. Thank you, sir. Thank you.